AWA Championship Wrestling. The AWA presents the greatest stars in professional wrestling, bringing you the best in mat action.
The sound of the bell means class is in session, and I'm just going to start this show off. Ashlee, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I deserve an apology after what you've made me do.
This is absolutely the biggest steaming pile of horse shit we have ever watched, and I owe you an apology, and I hope to God TNA makes up for it next week. Look, that's how we're starting the show. Before we get going, guys, welcome to a new episode of YWWE, or your world of wrestling education. Joining me is Ashlee.
Hi.
That's all you got.
Well, you didn't say anything. You just said my name.
Yeah, no, I was hoping you'd just take over. This show is terrible. Today we are taking a look at Superclash 3, and we'll get into the reason in a moment. But guys, we are on our road to All In / Starrcast, which our other show, SNS, will be part of on Podcast Row.
Yep.
On Sunday, by the way, the day after All In. So any surprises at All In means we may get them on the show. No one knows. All weekend long, we're going to be doing interviews with fans, talent, who knows who will show up and talk to us. And throughout the weekend, you're going to see videos on our Facebook page, facebook.com/TBK Magazine, videos on our Twitter, twitter.com/TBK Magazine, and even stuff on our Instagram page at TBK Mag. There you go, guys. You got to do this now. Follow us on all three platforms. It is going to be a crazy week, and that is why today we are taking a look at the AWA Presents Superclash 3, or I'd rather stick my dick in a toaster. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, right? This show looks great on paper, by the way. On paper, this show should have been a barn burner.
It should have been better. I'm not sure it's going to be a barn burner.
Instead, it's like getting food poisoning from a Taco John's. You're just screwed.
Maybe don't go to Taco John's.
No, I've got food poisoning one time from fast food Mexican, and it was a Taco John's, and I'm still pissed off about that, and that was like 6 years ago. That's how I felt. It was the same. It was the same feeling watching Superclash 3. I'd rather be sitting on a toilet shitting and hurting in pain from wiping, because this is a lot. That would have been a lot better than this steaming pile.
It actually took us 2 days to watch this because I just had to stop.
Oh my God.
And by the time we got to the end of day 2, even though I was up, I was pacing, I was done. I was done with this before it was over.
I don't even know what to say to this show. I just see we're looking at the 4 biggest first. And, which I mean, there's bigger first than this, but I felt this was a show we needed to cover because at the time, the territory system is dying. Because Vince McMahon has come in and made the WWF a global phenomenon. No matter what you look at, it is what is going on in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is tuning in to see what Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, the Ultimate Warrior, the Hart Foundation, Demolition are doing each week. Yeah. We know this. The Crockett's, Saturday night TBS 505, you knew where you were going to be. You knew what you were going to get. You're going to get the 4 Horsemen riding tall. You got Sting making his comeback, or making his run in his first title run picture, because Sting gets that match with Flair early in '88. So Sting's on top, Luger's on top, Flair's on top. The NWA's clicking, the Steiners, the Road Warriors, Doom's getting ready to come in. It's a good time to be a fan of the big 2.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But if you were but if you enjoyed the territory era, there are 3 left that are prominent. The first one happens to be the one that's closest to us, the CWA or CWF, or it could be either or. Out of
Memphis.
Out of Memphis, yeah. And I think everyone is pretty much clear who was the guy in charge of the Memphis territory. It was Jerry Lawler. Like, when you think Memphis, the first person that comes to your mind has to be Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah.
Probably Andy Kaufman second.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy Hart. Like, wrestling-wise, I don't think anyone made a bigger splash other than Lawler. I mean, a lot of guys came through. Sting came through Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker came through Memphis. But still, Kane came through Memphis. But no one made that... What's the word I'm looking for? No one hit that national exposure as much as Jerry Lawler did.
Well, not everybody gets to have a feud with a movie star.
This is true. This is very, very true. And then there's World Class being ran by the Von Erichs in Dallas, Texas, at the world-famous Sportatorium. World Class is on its way down. At this point, World Class has gone past its height. You knew it. As soon as Fritz did the stinking heart attack thing on Christmas night, and I don't remember what year that is. It's either 86 or 87. The fans started turning on the company because they were tired of seeing Von Erich tragedy in the news. And I feel with the fans of Dallas, I can't blame them.
No.
I like the Von Erichs. I think they're a great wrestling family. I think the one brother, I'm going to probably get the name wrong, Kevin, Carey, and I can't think of the other one. The one that passed away in Japan. Because they did the super show where Carey wins the NWA world title. I want to say it's Mike, but I don't think that's right. Okay, don't worry about it right now.
Okay.
I'll look it up. But there was so much tragedy with that family, I almost think that was the reason that people turned on World Class.
Yeah. I mean, with as much terribleness as was actually happening with the family.
Oh, God.
Why would you add to that?
David Von Erich. It was David Von Erich. Mike Von Erich did kill himself, though. There you go, folks. Overdosed on tranquilizers.
You also have Chris.
The little one, yeah. Who, I believe, shot himself on his dad's property. But
yes.
that was after
Yes,
World
he
Class
did.
had ended. Like, there's a thing here where if you look at, like, the whole history of World Class, you're just sad.
It's terrible.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, you can't look at World Class and be... There's so many good wrestlers. And I mean, the Freebirds, you could say World Class might have been... If any of them could have ever challenged Vince...
It would have been that one.
It would have been World Class. The NWA is fired up. Memphis is going to be Memphis. No matter how you look at it, Memphis is going to run Memphis.
I'm not sure Memphis ever tried to be more than Memphis.
And I don't think it could have. And I don't want to alienate my Memphis listeners because, sorry guys, but as much as Kaufman Lawler was put out there, I don't think Memphis could have been a big... I don't think Memphis would have got over on a bigger stage.
No, Memphis is strange.
The thing with Memphis is, and guys, I don't know how many of you know this, but if you look at Memphis, I mean, they gave us some of the weirder matches in wrestling, including the concession stand brawl. So anytime you see one of those, that's a Memphis thing.
Yeah.
Which they did, by the way, at a SmackDown taping.
In Memphis.
So we
were there. It was great.
It was between Natalia and...
Wasn't it
Nikki Bella? Yeah. So World Class is on its last legs in 88. Memphis is kind of on its last legs, but it's still running strong because Memphis is still drawing. Out of the three territories, I think they should have had this show in Memphis.
I think it probably would have drawn better because Memphis has always been consistently good about their own wrestling.
Like, if you're going to look at the wrestling towns, and I mean, they had it in the biggest wrestling town, and we'll get to that in a second, outside New York City, and they couldn't draw more than 2,000. That's ridiculous. That is freaking ridiculous. And then the AWA, which I don't know, World Class was on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
AWA was on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
World Class got bought out by Jerry Jarrett in the Memphis territory, became the USWA. It was on ESPN.
Yeah.
And then all of it folded off. Like, all three just went down. Just poof. Like, it was just domino effect. I think this is the beginning of the end. I think this is the... How do I put this as nicely as I possibly can without sounding like a complete asshole? Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's just bad.
No, this is honestly the first shot of this is if it was a firing squad, this is the first bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the show I think that killed AWA and World Class because they never gained traction again after this. Memphis continued on until the mid-90s.
Memphis is Memphis, and it's just going to keep doing its own thing, regardless of what you think about it.
And still, even most of the independents around Memphis still run it like it's Memphis wrestling. So
It's just a thing.
they're in their own little world, and that's fine. That's great. But putting 3 territories together where, and I know that we have not, I've never covered territory with you very much.
Yeah,
We've watched stuff from the territory era.
a little bit.
Because the WWF stuff, even in the early 80s, is still more global. Because when Hulk Hogan came in, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
They had a rocket ship strapped to them, and they took off. The NWA, Flair's become a household name at this point.
Yeah.
Styling and profiling. The Von Erichs are a household name. In Israel. World Class was huge in Israel.
That's really weird.
No joke. But I mean, they have that world appeal where, here we go, Memphis doesn't have.
No.
I mean, people knew who Jerry Lawler was.
You can have big people and still not be a big company.
Right. And then the other one, AWA, which is ran by Vern Gagne, all their stars went to the WWF in the mid-'80s. Like, that's when Vince was like, I'm taking everybody. He took Hogan. He took Bobby Heenan. He took... there's got to be 4 or 5. There was 4 or 5 others just all gone at once. And it's a weird time. And you try to rebuild from that, holy crap.
Everybody's going to keep going where the money is, no matter how much you try to rebuild.
Oh, and New York is where the money is.
No joke.
Like, you could... Now, granted, Crockett's selling out North Carolina, Georgia. I mean, they're running great cities. But that's still not New York City.
Mm-mm.
As much as you can say about the Crockett era, and I prefer Crockett's. I prefer the NWA style. If I'm going to go back and watch 80s wrestling, I hope to God it's an NWA show. I don't like the WWF presentation from the 80s
Okay.
as much now as a hardcore fan, where I can watch it and enjoy wrestling more. But my God, New York, and granted, it's not the best style. I don't care for the WWF style.
Yeah.
But it was still more fun than the shit we got presented on this fucking show.
Which had a lot more names that I knew than I expected, honestly.
I mean,
and a lot of really young performers that you know.
Yeah, and I mean, they're just coming up. A lot of the guys that are in this show are just getting started, I think, at this point. Maybe even some of them are still green.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of them that we're going to talk about was still green at this point. But before we go into AWA Superclash, guys, if you enjoy wine, check out knockingpointwines.com and order your first wine box. You can have wine shipped directly to your door. That's right. You don't even have to leave your house to get a bottle of wine. Visit knockingpointwines.com and use the code TBK at checkout on your first wine box, and you get $20 off.
I love that you're doing finger guns at me.
I
It
don't.
matters.
I'm trying. I don't know. It's like I'm not doing video, but dear God, I'm animated.
Like we're ready. You're ready for video. We're gonna have to make this happen.
Also, guys, if you check out our store, Shop TBK, tbkmagazine.com/shop TBK, and use the code ALLIN at checkout on any TBK apparel, we're paying the shipping. Free shipping for you.
Woo!
So do that now. Shop TBK, tbkmagazine.com/shop TBK. Pick up your TBK SNS All In t-shirt or your sexy wrestling donut shirt.
We still haven't gone back to see how we got to that.
It is during a conversation about Flip Gordon, by the way. I have went back and I listened to the episode to find out, and I said that Flip Gordon was a sexy wrestling donut. I still don't understand it to this day, but
Because you enjoy the look of him that much.
I guess. Is it a jelly donut? Because that's my favorite kind of donut.
I mean, the photo on the t-shirt not a jelly donut.
No, but
it's a sprinkle donut.
Yeah, because I was trying to make a donut that looked like a donut. I didn't know what I was talking about. I still think I'm talking out my ass during that show. So whatever.
You always are. It's okay.
Yeah, no, that's true. So here we go, guys. So as we take our lead into All In, the idea here is to look at some of the biggest shows from the past. And next week, it's the very first NWA TNA pay-per-view on Wednesday night. The week after that, it's WrestleMania 1 from Madison Square Garden. The week after that, it's Starrcade 83, because I feel that's the most paralleled show. But tonight, we are taking a look at Superclash 3. And yes, we've already discussed the workings of the territories and them dying. The AWA is dead in 2 years, by the way. It is completely dead in December 1990.
Wow.
World Class gets bought out, I think, the next year, and Memphis doesn't go out of business till 95. Crazy to think about this. Because Vince McMahon becomes a heel character in Memphis in 93. Ridiculous. All right, here we go. The idea behind this is the three territories getting together and trying to take out the WWF and the NWA. Let that sink in. A lot of those guys love the NWA, probably.
Yeah.
And there they are trying to fight it.
They were just scratching and clawing, trying to make sure they didn't go down.
Well,
I think everybody knew that it was on its last leg.
The pay-per-view market at this time, like WWF's doing WrestleManias, and they're kicking all kinds of ass. WrestleMania 4, I think, is the first one actually on pay-per-view, because I think 1, 2, and 3 were still closed circuit, or 3 was on pay-per-view as the beginning stages, but it wasn't everywhere as available as 4 was. But, I mean, you're trying to capitalize on that market.
Yeah.
And closed circuit's still a thing at that time. Which, by the way, today, if you check out Starrcast.com tomorrow, tickets go on sale. If you don't have tickets for All In, you can see All In at Starrcast for just $20 in a closed circuit environment, hosted by the Hurricane. That just got announced tonight. So,
nice.
So check that out, Starrcast.com. All right, so I'm going to get as many plugs in as I can on that tonight. Because honestly, Superclash 3 is a steaming pile of fucking shit. All right.
Let's just roll on through it and keep plugging Starrcast over.
That's fine. Before we get, like I said, it's the three territories coming together to try to make something happen out of nothing. They are trying, what's that saying? They're trying to turn shit into, or they're trying to make, I don't know what it is, something out of shit.
I don't know where you're going with this.
They're trying to make an apple pie out of a shit sandwich.
They're polishing a turd, and it's not working.
That's it. That's what I want. They're trying to polish a turd. I don't know what
you can paint it gold, but it's still a turd.
Yeah, that's what I was going with. That's what I wanted. And they decide to run this show in Chicago. Now, that's a big thing.
Yeah, Chicago's a wrestling town.
Chicago is the number 2 wrestling town in the U.S., right behind New York. If you can make it in Chicago, you're good to go. Just a personal opinion. So,
and this is in one of the territories.
This is in AWA country. Honestly, AWA ran 2 of their biggest shows ever out of Chicago. Now, granted, Minneapolis is their other city. That's where their home base is. But Chicago is in their territory. How, and anybody can correct me, how do you run a building that holds 10,000 and the NWA comes into your territory and puts 8,000 people in that same building a year prior to this at Starrcade? 8,000 people.
Yep.
On Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
How do you run that same venue with some of the biggest names in wrestling and still only draw 1,672 people? What the fuck did they do wrong?
Did they not do advertising?
I don't know. I don't understand, because I know how the main event got announced, and it was on an episode of AWA television the week before the pay-per-view.
Well, if they only knew that this was happening a week prior, then 1,600 people is awesome.
Well, and I mean, you can find the video on YouTube of Lee Marshall and Larry Nelson talking. And Lee's like, I have something huge to announce. And they go to this press conference, and there's all the promoters There's Vern Gagne. There's Jerry Jarrett. There's the guys from Dallas. Not Von Erich, but one of the guy who does all the booking in Dallas. David McLean. We'll get to him in a minute. And Jerry Lawler and Gary Von Erich. And they're going to try to unify the AWA world title and the WCCW world title into one real world's champion. That's a great idea. If you're going to do it, just become a super company. Screw it. That would have been a great idea.
Yeah.
They could have ran it. I don't know if ego got into play here.
It had to have. Knowing backstory on any of these promoters.
Knowing the Gagnes, it had to fucking do it. And I like the Gagnes, but
I think that it was too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Like, everybody wanted to be the guy, and everybody wanted their guy to be the one with the title.
Well, that's the territory.
And nobody was willing to cave.
That's the territory era right there. Because,
I know, but when you're wanting to work together, you have to work together.
And there's no way that you take three of the biggest egos in wrestling and put them under one roof to go, look, we're going to book your territory, my territory, and the other guy's territory, and make all three of us look strong. That's not going to fucking happen.
No, you have to have people willing to work together to do that. And clearly, looking at this pay-per-view, didn't happen.
It did in the first match, and we'll get to that in a minute.
There wasn't a title change in the first match.
No. When we get to title matches, each title match... Look, I'm just going to say this. They had a no DQ match end on a fucking DQ. How in the blue hell does that work? We'll talk about that in a minute, but that still pisses me off.
So, here we are in Chicago.
At the UIC Pavilion. It's a decent arena.
It was okay. We are December 13th, 1988.
Chicago.
I assume it's snowing.
Probably. If it is, you know what? The weather could have impacted attendance.
Possibly. Probably not.
Probably not. No, the buy rate for this show was in the shitter.
Because it was terrible.
But even if you're at home wanting to watch wrestling on pay-per-view, it's still even a hard sell because you've got Starrcade coming up. And I'm not going to lie to you. If I had to choose between Superclash 3 and Starrcade...
Picking Starrcade.
I'm going to pick Starrcade. Because Starrcade's main event that year was Flair and Luger.
You can't beat that.
I'm going to... Especially when Luger's like on his big run.
You can't beat it.
That's a great run.
Because you know people at home are probably going to have to choose what they're going to buy.
Or you take the show that happened 2 or 3 weeks prior... And you have to choose between Superclash 3 and the Survivor Series. And the 88 Survivor Series has Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage on the same team. It's got the double turn between Demolition and the Powers of Pain, which is freaking phenomenal if you've never seen it. I mean, that show is...
But if you're just a random person at home, you're going to pick one of the big two because you know it's going to be something good.
We know who's going to be on the show.
Even if you know who from your territory is going to be on this show, you don't know who the other guys are.
Let me ask this. Okay, so, no, and you don't know, like, if you're not watching ESPN, because I know when they showed wrestling, it was at 2:30 in the afternoon. I would come home from school and watch wrestling, which was awesome as a kid, but
makes not great sense as an adult.
Oh, no. Because I remember one of the matches where they threw him off a bungee. Like, they threw him, like, they were in a, They were in a crane.
Yeah.
They had bungees attached to them, and the first person to get thrown out of the crane loses.
That's terrible.
That was a fucking match. Okay. So...
That's not safe.
No. But I'll ask this. We're traveling 7 hours for Starrcast and All In. It's a long drive.
Yeah.
Would you have traveled? So we're in the Memphis territory, so this is actually kind of the same principle.
This theoretically could have happened.
Yeah, so that's why we're doing this show. Because honestly...
If this was 30 years ago, theoretically, this could have been a conversation we had.
Yes. Would you have been... Look, our guy, Jerry Lawler, is in the main event of this show that is supposed to change the world of wrestling. Do we go the 7 hours to be part of this historic event?
Maybe.
That's where the question lies, because...
Maybe. It really depends on how into your guys you are.
Because for Memphis...
And it's hard to grasp that because it is so far past. But it just comes down to how big of a fan are you of these people? How far are you willing to travel? Like, I don't question traveling less than 3 hours ever. Like,
No.
I'm okay with that. Like, that does not faze me. I'm cool with that at the drop of a hat. We can travel 3 hours and do something.
But traveling 7 is a long...
We definitely would have purchased it at home.
Oh, definitely. We would have watched it on
100%
pay-per-view.
would have watched it on pay-per-view. Possibly would have gone to it if we were super into some of these guys.
Because, I mean, outside of Jerry Lawler, Jeff Jarrett's on this show, who was a Memphis guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Boogie Woogie Jimmy Valiant.
Yep.
Memphis guy. Brickhouse Brown. Memphis guy. I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm pretty sure that's the extent of the Memphis territory on this show. Because the rest of the matches, outside a couple, are all AWA guys.
Yeah. Which could have been to try to get people into the arena, honestly.
Because that's their territory.
Because that's the territory, so you have to focus on that because that's who's more likely to travel to get there.
That's why I say I think this show may have been better ran in Memphis. And I know it's crazy to think that, but I mean, Memphis was still putting at least 5,000 people in the Mid-South Coliseum.
Memphis comes out to their local stuff. They might not travel, but they would come out to local
They may
stuff.
not come out to WWE anymore either, but they'll still come out if you tell them Jerry Lawler is going to wrestle. There is going to be at least 1,000 people at it, no matter what.
In a town closer to us, they do a Legends type wrestling show.
I've been to one of those, and there was at least
And it packs
1,200.
out
There was at least 1,200 people there.
in a very tiny space.
Yeah, it was hot, too. It
Like-
was early September.
And these are guys that are way past their prime and should possibly not be wrestling anymore.
Jerry Lawler, by the way, for 70 years old, can still move in the ring really, really well.
Yeah, it's a little impressive. But it's not just him. There's a number of real old guys that are always there.
Yeah,
And people go freaking nuts for it.
because that's the thing here. Those guys they grew up with them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at here of going, okay, so I grew up with Hulk Hogan and that era. So would I go out of my way to see some of the legends that I grew up watching? And I'm probably 90% sure I would.
Yeah.
So I don't fault them for it.
No.
But going 7 hours out of the way to a show that you have no idea who else is on it, because I don't know how this was promoted in Memphis. Here's the other thing. I don't know how this show was promoted in Memphis or Dallas, because I know one of them has ESPN at the time. You've got to promote it on ESPN.
Yeah.
I mean, that's national television. That's your only big promotion is ESPN. I know, guys, we're talking about this and it's semantics, but you're going to understand why. Unlike the show we're getting ready to cover on September 1st,
Yeah.
This should have been in the same, like when we look at conversations of wrestling shows that's happened over time, and we take a look at WrestleMania 1 and how important that was to the WWF, and we look at Starrcade and how important that was to WCW. We go back and we look at NWA TNA's first pay-per-view. And yeah, that company was told they were going to die within a year. They're still fucking here.
It keeps coming back.
And
is
it's
the
better
cockroach of professional wrestling.
And it is one of the best promotions right now in wrestling.
Yeah,
Just
but
letting that sink
it is the cockroach of professional wrestling.
Oh yeah, until now. I think it's kind of becoming the butterfly of pro wrestling. That's another argument for another
But
show.
it keeps almost dying and coming back.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen now. I think they're in a good spot now. But taking that into consideration, this should be right up there with All In and WrestleMania 1 and Starrcade. But dear God, it's nowhere fucking close.
Should be.
This show isn't even in the top. I don't know how many wrestling pay-per-views there's been. I would say there's probably been a few hundred.
Okay.
Outside DCW's December to Dismember, this might be the biggest steaming pile of shit I've ever watched. There was still one good match on that show, too.
There's one good match on this show.
1.5. 2.5.
And
2.
Two acceptable matches on this show.
So if a half a match is good and there's 2 half a matches that are good, so does that make 2 matches?
I guess that makes 2 full matches that are good, but really it's 1 match and 2 half matches.
So, all right, so let's break down this motherfucker.
Okay. So before this even starts, as we fire this up on...
Wait, we forgot one thing. David McClain's Powerful Women of Wrestling. Forgot it. I have no idea about it. But they're in this too. Go ahead.
So, anyway, before this thing even starts, when you start this on the network, which is ridiculously easy to find, and that is a problem, you should bury this.
By the way, this wasn't on the network at time of launch. I understand why.
It should have stayed gone.
By the way, Superclash 1 and 2.
We should not have been able to find this.
Superclash 1 and 2, fucking phenomenal.
WWE should work on getting rid of this. Like, it needs to disappear. But before it even starts, you get not 1, but 2 TVMA warnings.
Are you saying this should be buried alive? I was going to make a really horrible Chris Benoit joke, and I talked myself out of it.
It's terrible.
That
is terrible.
I talked myself out of it. Go ahead.
No, sir. 2 TVMA warnings. The normal flash up one, and then the big paragraph one with the guy reading out that this is bad and you shouldn't watch it.
Parental discretion is advised. You want to know why? Blood. Lots of fucking blood.
And language.
Yeah, no, that's true too.
And suggestive themes.
And a guy who's kind of pervy. We'll get to that.
Really pervy.
But go ahead. Do you have anything else?
Well, no, I was just going to start talking about stuff if you would let me.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Excuse you, sir.
Calm down.
I have notes.
Calm down there, Turbo Tits.
I have notes.
Calm down, Turbo Tits. Coming soon to Shop TBK.
Oh, God. And I know you will, too. That's the problem.
You're right. You are correct.
So they are out there talking about all of the people coming together, making this great show.
Let me just say
it's going to be wonderful.
It's Larry Nelson, who is in front of the ring announcing, hey, welcome to Superclash 3.
Yep.
Talks about the show.
Yep.
We get this really weird hard camera. Now, before we even get started in the show, the hard camera is the biggest nightmare to anyone with OCD.
It is slightly
to the left?
Left of center. It is not in the middle of the ring. It is not on a ring post.
It's odd.
It is slightly left of center.
And it's not like... They set it up as if they were trying to cover War Games, and they were in like the middle of Ring 2. Like, I don't understand why.
I'll give you that.
I don't understand how, but whatever.
And then they're announcing how this is the biggest match ever, and the crowd boos Kerry Von Erich.
Oh, the crowd is not having this match.
The crowd booed Kerry Von Erich, and they did not respond to Jerry Lawler. Like, it was a lukewarm, a couple of boos,
because
a couple
it's
of
not
yays.
Their guys.
Nothing. Like, lukewarm to Jerry Lawler, but they booed Kerry Von Erich.
Let's just go ahead and call this now. The AWA, which, I mean, there was still some cheers for Kerry later on. But the AWA is the territory, and Lawler has the championship, who's a Memphis guy.
Which is terrible.
Taking on the world-class guy, who's from Dallas. So
why is this your main event when you're so far away from where they belong?
But remember, it wasn't the main event. Because that's fucking weird.
Whatever.
All right.
But then we get to see our ring announcer.
Well done. We are greeted. After Larry Nelson, we are greeted by the announcers for the evening, Ray the Crippler Stevens and Tony the Tiger.
Also known as...
Stagger Lee Marshall.
Thank you.
All night.
Which is weird.
All night, guys. All night. I'm just going to tell you now, Tony the Tiger jokes all night long. Just go ahead and warn you now. Go.
So you got really excited about the announcer.
Gary Michael Capetta. If there is anything about this show that's probably good, besides the commentary, because I will say this.
Commentary was great.
Lee Marshall tried to sell this show. He tried to sell ice to an Eskimo.
So hard.
He did a great
job. So close.
He did a great job. He did a great job with what he was presenting.
He did the best he possibly could.
But Gary Michael Capetta is the voice of the NWA. No matter how you look at it, when you think the Crockett era to Turner buying it out, the ring announcer is Gary Michael Capetta. Here he is on the AWA Superclash 3. I am really confused.
Yep.
Because when I think of Gary Capetta, I think of him announcing Sting. Because of his voice, like, he doesn't have a deep, grovelly ring announcer like Howard Finkel. Like, you know, when Howard Finkel talks, it's, and the new WW. Like, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Gary Michael Capetta is kind of nasally.
Yeah.
But it works. And it just made the WCW sound a little bit more in, like, you come to love it. So here's Gary Michael Capetta, which is probably the thing I pop for the most on this show.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad. Well, that and the guys in the first match. But I got excited for Gary Michael Capetta.
You did.
Because
And then
he's a good ring announcer.
they announced literally everybody.
Yeah.
Like, they tell you that it's sanctioned by these people, and this is the person, and this is the person that's here tonight, and this is the doctor at ringside, and this is the paramedic at ringside, and this is the guy that's gonna ring the bell, and these are all your refs, and this is me, the announcer.
Let me just go ahead and cue you guys on the referees.
What?
Can I talk about the refs real
Yes.
quick? Mike Enos, who's in the ring when Scott Hall debuts in WCW
As a wrestler.
as a wrestler. The guy's dumb as a referee.
He looks dumb.
There's another referee who slightly looks like Adolf Hitler. And another referee who has a really huge head and looks like a Funko Pop.
And Richard referred to them as that through the rest
That
of the
was,
night.
yeah, Hitler ref, Funko Pop ref, and Mike Enos. Like,
Yeah.
there was no ifs, ands, or buts. Oh my God.
It was bad.
So-
And through all of his announcers, he did not actually announce the commentary team.
No, and that's a little sad. I mean, they
Which is-
announced themselves, but still.
Not to the people in
Not to the
in
people
the
in
arena.
crowd. The first match of the show, like, we get no entrances. They just cut it. And I don't know if that's the WWE thing. If I know there's an actual hard copy of this on the internet, and maybe that would have saved something. Like, I could have heard entrance musics and stuff, because that wasn't on this show.
No, you got basically no entrances. It was really weird.
It was all cut, and I don't know if that's how it was. I don't know if that's how it was presented even. It could have been. I don't know. But through the WWE version, we just kick off the show with a huge 6-man tag.
which is also the best match of the night.
This is no shit. No
This
shit.
is a good match.
This match, I told it's the Guerreros against the Rock and Roll RPMs and Cactus Jack Foley. Holy crap.
Like, when you have a 6-person tag, and I know 4 out of the 6, it's gonna be a good night.
That's actually kind of impressive.
Like I know 4 out of the 6 of these guys, and the 2 I didn't know, you didn't know either. So,
I don't know anything about the Rock and Roll RPMs, but it's Tommy Lane and Mike Davis.
so this is what we start with, and like, if this is where we had continued for the whole night, this would have gone down as a great show.
I'm telling you, this show starts off so good. And
This match is really, really good, and if you watch just this match, you would be happy.
The Rock and Roll RPMs, by the way, came from Memphis.
There you go. There's Memphis peoples.
Won the AWA Southern Tag Team titles. But this is their biggest match to date.
Oh.
They also won the WCCW Tag Team titles.
Well, it's because that was their promotion, and they were a tag team, and I figure pretty much everybody held it at one point.
So, yeah, pretty
Like,
sure.
it's
Outside the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, yeah. No, there's no argument. The Guerreros, I gotta tell you, I've seen them. I've seen a few Guerreros in the Brothers wrestle outside Eddie and Chavo Classic. That's pretty much all I've seen. But now I'm starting, because of the old stuff being on the network, I'm starting to see Hector and Mondo and going, my God, this whole family could have been just stars everywhere. Like, it is, honestly, this match holds up now. And that says a lot. This is a perfect, like, if you go to your local independent show, this is the kind of opener you're going to get. Fun, fast-paced, 6-man tag. I'm happy with it.
very few tags made in the 6-man tag
Oh,
match.
no, they went by Lucha rules. Anytime someone goes out of the ring, someone else can come in. And I like that. I like that more than I do American tag rules, but...
Yeah, I'll give you that. It keeps things going faster. I feel like a lot of American wrestling, especially at this time, you get a lot of slow pace.
Oh, that's the 80s. Hands down.
I'm going to put you in some kind of submission move. We're going to have a rest hold here. We're going to break, and one of us is going to walk around the outside looking angry.
The Randy Orton special.
Come on.
We like to call that.
Come on. We can do better. We can do better. We can do better than this.
A lot of head scissors in this match. A lot of flying head scissors.
Lots of drop kicks.
Drop kick by Hector. Drop kick by Hector. Drop kick by Hector.
Hector with a drop kick. Many times.
That drop kick was great. You knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming. Of course, poor Hector got no recognition other than he got a lot of drop kicks because apparently Chavo, the oldest Guerrero, was a phrase used, and Mondo, the fastest Guerrero.
And then there's Hector.
And they didn't mention Hector. They just
which is sad.
Went off topic. It's like, oh, but there's three.
Is sad.
But there's three. You said in Hector the gobbledygooker, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah, I know. Hector
We don't
Guerrero
talk
was the
about that.
gobbledygooker.
This was a really good match, though.
It was. And I think that surprises me.
Fun dog pile spot towards the end.
Where so the Guerreros slam one of the members of the RPMs and then do a splash. And then they slam the other one, and then two of them do a splash. And then they slam Mick Foley, and then it's just a dog pile of splashes on the RPMs and Foley. And they do a triple pin. The ref's out of position, though, and doesn't even count it. That should have been a 2.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's what it was supposed to be, but Mike Enos is somewhere out in La La Land.
He's a terrible ref.
Oh, my God.
Actually, all of the refs on this show were just bad.
But there is one spot that you know that Cactus Jack has to do.
Ugh.
And he goes out to the floor and gets back body dropped by Chavo Classic onto the concrete floor, making that typical Mick Foley sound. I mean, that's...
it's
a splat.
Hate not having padding outside the ring. It hurts me. I understand that the 2 inches of foam does not
do a
help
lot.
that much, but it helps a little.
It at least takes away from that sound, and I just can't.
It helps a little.
I don't.
The nurse in me has trouble watching 80s wrestling.
I know that no one understands this, but we've been to a lot of indie shows recently.
Yes.
Where I've been, and there's no padding in the indie shows. And dear God, they hit hard.
Yeah.
When they hit the floor, it's just a sound that you can't shake from your ear holes. I don't know what is going on. Because it's a terrible sound. That splat sound will never leave me now.
Nothing is as bad as the one that we saw in Chicago on
At
that
Chikara?
on that wooden ballroom floor that shook the entire second floor.
When one Francisco de Coronado slams Fire Ant and you just hear... It was great. Like, it was weird.
It might have just been so bad because we were so close to it.
And we were on the second or third floor of a building in a ballroom that only holds like 200 people.
But it happened like 15 feet from us, and I'm pretty sure my chair jumped, and it was terrible.
Or the sound
terrible.
or the sound of someone diving over the top rope and landing on a chair.
Ugh.
But outside that, this match was great. Chavo throws out one of the RPMs. Mondo hits a top rope to Cactus on the floor, while Chavo hits a moonsault onto Lane of the RPMs for the 1, the 2, and the 3. Great. And
it was good. It was good. This was a fun match. This was a good match. I was happy with this match. I got false confidence with this match.
Oh, this match, yeah. No, this match is the equivalent of a Tinder date. Like, you set it up, you think it's going to be wonderful, you guys are getting along great, you're talking, and then when you get there, she has false teeth, and they pop out of her mouth, and then you're left with gum-gums. Like, that's pretty much where we're at this point.
Yeah, this gave me false confidence as to maybe it's just the main event of this that's really terrible. If it's just the main event that's really terrible, then this is kind of a passable show. It could be all right. This could be okay. Like, if
Nope.
this is where you are through the whole thing, this is a good enough match. This is a good enough show. But it's not. It goes downhill, and it goes downhill hard.
It
Goes down hard.
That ain't no joke. That ain't no joke. Next, no, you want to go ahead? You have notes? Do you have any notes?
I don't, because I really enjoyed this match.
Yeah, no,
like,
you were
I remember
invested.
this match.
You were invested in this match. Like, there was no ifs, ands, or
Like-
buts. You were sitting there intently watching this match.
Yes, all I have is who it was. Like, I try to write down who the match is when it starts to make sure I can keep track of what's going on.
If this match would have been the equivalent of the whole pay-per-view,
I'm cool with it.
Superclash 3 would go down as one of the best shows ever.
But then we moved on.
Next up, we get...
It's probably the second best match on the show.
You're forgetting something. It's Next up is Larry Nelson in the back, and this is the first time we get to see pervy Larry Nelson as he interviews the POW champion Nina, who's also Ivory. And she will compete in a $10,000 Beverly Hills Street Fight Lingerie Battle Royal. For Bound for Glory. There's a lot of wrestling fans that'll get that, and I'm okay with it. What the shit was this? First of all, Larry Nelson looks like he's about to lick her.
He is super uncomfortable. He interviews a bunch of women because there's a battle royal. There's a bunch of women that are going to be in the match. It's fine. Understandable. There's a bunch of women to interview. This is a big story. I get it. But he is inappropriately into these.
Do you remember the old Looney Tunes cartoon where the wolf has the eyes and they pop out of the head and the tongue rolls out?
That's what's happening here.
That's Larry Nelson throughout this entire show.
He is awkwardly close to them. He's saying slightly inappropriate comments.
Slightly.
And he's just... Ugh.
No. He would.
The way that he's looking at these girls makes me uncomfortable.
He was looking at those women like I look at a rare steak.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible. It is just... I'm sitting there watching this as a fan going... and we talked about this on an episode of Live, where you watch something and you're just so uncomfortable, you kind of just want to leave the room.
Yeah.
And you talked about that on Fangirls, too. And I'm at that point now where I'm like, this is that moment where if I was watching this with anyone else other than you...
Yeah, I would have turn it off now.
Yeah, I would have got up and left the room, or would have had someone else just be like, all right, we're going to fast forward. Next up, the WCCW World Light Heavyweight title as Jeff Jarrett defends against flamboyant Eric Embry. This is an okay match. It is interesting to see a very young Jeff Jarrett with his fluff hair.
Very, very young Jeff Jarrett.
He is 210 pounds. 210 pounds.
This was an okay match. This wasn't bad. This was average.
It could have been a lot better.
It could have been better. It wasn't terrible. It's your average C match. This is a filler. Nobody's going to remember it.
That's true.
It's okay. You have to have those. You can't have 5-star matches through an entire show.
Unless it's in the Tokyo Dome.
There have to be a few where it's just kind of forgettable. You're not upset for having watched it, but it didn't really do anything for you.
No. It's kind of the...
And that's where this is. It's okay.
It's like watching a show for the 6th time on Netflix. You're just going to have it on for background noise. That's pretty much what this match was.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad. There were some decent spots.
Jarrett goes for a cross-body block and misses and ends up eating a mouthful of rope.
That was kind of rough.
Oh, I thought he knocked himself out.
There were a couple of spots through this show, not this match in particular, but just through this show where it's you probably should have just died.
That happens, but then Jarrett sells his shoulder, and I don't know if that's a legit injury or not, because, he hit that rope. Yeah, my God, he hit that rope.
That looked bad.
And also, the AWA ropes are not the cable ropes. They're technically not even the ropes WWE uses. These are bull ropes.
Yeah.
Flat out, these are bull ropes.
They are freaking massive and taped up all nice and pretty.
I'll say this about the AWA ring. It looks nice.
It looked very nice. I was pleased with this. You didn't know how you felt about it at first, but I was pleased with this.
The ring looks great until you get that hard cam shot, and there's just a ton of empty seats behind the ring. Just
For the close-up shots, they did a really good job of making the crowd dark enough that you couldn't tell, because you couldn't see past the risers.
That first set of risers?
So you only saw, the few rows on the floor and the few rows up in the risers, and everything else was just black. Apparently, because it was completely empty. But
Jeff Jarrett's shoulder is injured. Eric Embry rolls him up after a sunset flip that Jarrett tries to do and messes up. Embry wins the light heavyweight championship.
For the 4th time.
Yeah. So Embry and Jarrett had a decent match. I feel like they probably...
Pretty good chemistry. It was okay.
I figure they probably had better matches.
And I figure they probably wrestled pretty frequently.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
And Embry said he was worried about Jarrett's condition and went back to the back and checked on him.
2 faces.
Yeah, that was weird. Despite being a heel, the new champion gets a face pop from the Chicago Faithful. That's 100% true. Eric Embry got a pop.
He did. It was okay.
Backstage, we get Larry the Perv with the Syrian terrorist.
Who is, ironically enough, the prettiest of the female wrestlers on this show that are in the Battle Royal.
Outside Ivory, yeah, her and Ivory. That's it. And Luna. Luna's got a weird, awkward, quirky. Cute.
Not the same type of pretty.
No. But here's the thing: we learn how this Battle Royal comes to fruition. I can't talk. And it's because the Syrian terrorists ripped up Brandy May's cut-off shorts.
Yep.
I'm not making that up.
No, you're not.
She ripped up a pair of Daisy Dukes. And that's how we get a Battle Royal in lingerie. Dumb. Dum, da, dum, dum, dum.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah,
let's just keep rolling.
Next up, match number 3, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, who got a really huge ovation from the crowd.
Which is weird.
Yeah, he's wrestled everywhere.
But still.
Against Wayne Bloom, a.k.a. one of the Beverly Brothers. Which I think Mike Enos is the ref, and that's the other Beverly brother. I just want to point that out.
This is the beginning of their story.
Yes, this is when you find out more about them. Back elbow, Valiant delivers an elbow drop, and 1, 2, 3, the match is over.
It literally takes longer for the two of them to get into the ring and get announced than it does to have the match. So moving on.
Do we have an official opinion about this match?
There wasn't a match.
You know what I feel about it? Damn it, computer, work. There it is.
That did not deserve a woo.
Well, it's the only one I've got. It's just the Price is Right losing Tuba with a woo.
Did not deserve the woo.
Moving on. We get pervy Larry Nelson, who's now interviewing David McClain, who's going to be at Starrcast. You can meet the guy who created Glow.
You're really excited about this.
You know,
you want to talk to him so bad you can't stand it.
There's so many questions I just want to ask, because with the idea with the Netflix show and how Glow is starting to be perceived by the public again, I almost think, and I know there's the WOW promotion, which is out there now. Women of Wrestling, I think, is still a thing. But I know there's another one. It's either that one or he's got another one, like Super Women or Super whatever.
Super Women?
I don't know what it is. There's another promotion he's running right now.
Okay.
Because Santana Garrett's part of Starrcast and she's part of it.
Okay.
But I want to know what his thought is behind the fact that the Glow series is so popular. Because I honestly, I've said this since day one. I said it on live. I'll say it here. That is the best Netflix original.
It is pretty phenomenal.
And the cast is great.
They are.
And the young producer kid is, I'm assuming, who they're modeling the David McClain character after. Or that's who the David McClain character is. Side
note, if David McClain had a cocaine-dealing robot, we need to have a discussion.
He probably did.
We need to talk about that.
David McClain. I mean, he helped out some things here. He gave us Glow. I can't really be mad at the guy. But also, Larry's perving over Bambi, who is a Georgia native. That's pretty much it. He's trying to interview... David McClain's doing the talking as Larry Nelson is staring at Bambi the whole time. It is creepy.
It's terrible.
I hate it. And poor David McClain, he is trying to smile, and I think he's uncomfortable, but he's doing the best job of selling this battle royal as if it's the Royal fucking Rumble. This guy, as it's the 92
this guy
Rumble.
Is a salesman.
We are looking at the 92 Rumble, and fucking Brandy May is damn Ric Flair. It's just where we're at.
If that's how he sold everything to producers and to television people,
no wonder Glow made it.
Glow should have friggin' made it, because he was selling a match that was terrible to people that probably didn't want to have the match sold to them and just wanted to stop watching the television because Larry Nelson's a pervert. Yeah,
no. Larry Nelson's more of a pervert than I think anyone I've ever seen in wrestling, and that says a lot. Next up, we get match number 4 for the WCCW Texas Heavyweight Championship. It's Iceman King Parsons against the late Brickhouse Brown. I'm going to say this. This match, I figured, was going to be a lot better than it was.
It tried really hard.
It did.
These two guys just did not go well together.
They don't click. And I know that happens in wrestling. You can see a match where you're thinking, this is going to be a great match. and they just don't click. And that happens. Like, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
This is that situation where both guys are great in the ring. Like, I remember Iceman King Parsons from a lot of the World Class stuff. The dude's awesome. And I'm just now seeing Brickhouse Brown because I'm going out of my way to look at Memphis. And Brickhouse Brown was pretty good in the ring.
This is the first match of either of these guys that I've seen. And they each had impressive single spots. They were not impressive together. Like, it was okay. There were some botches. There was a time that I thought somebody might have broken a neck.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like, it was rough.
But I mean, there were some good spots until the end.
Iceman King Parsons has really dumb hair.
It is his character.
And also tattoos of penguins and snowflakes.
But he is the Iceman.
Don't care.
I'm going to argue this.
Don't care. He has matching penguin tattoos on his pecs.
Yes.
It's weird. It's weird, and you're not going to win this one.
King Parsons retains. Iceman King Parsons retains by pulling
cheating. Cheating.
Pulling Nux out of his trunks and hitting Brickhouse Brown. That was pretty much it. The match sucked. I mean, I'm just calling it what it is. The match was not that great. After the match, however, do you have any other notes?
No, not really. This is the point that I have. The only person doing his job is Tony the Tiger.
Yeah, no shit. Lee Marshall and Ray the Crippler Stevens is older at this point, and Lee Marshall is.
I mean, he's not doing a bad job. It's
no,
fine,
but Lee Marshall is pulling a Joey Styles, where he is calling almost 90% of the show by himself. The only time, and Vern helps him in match 2. Vern comes out for the Jarrett match, and even Vern doesn't talk as much as you would think. The only time anyone even comes close to Tony the Tiger in terms of commentary is fucking David McLean.
Because he helps call the women's battle royal.
And I'm just going to say this now. If you would have made the entire night and the entire commentary team Tony the Tiger and David McLean,
it would have been much better.
You would have sold this show to everybody. Like, I don't know what it is about those two had great chemistry. The battle royal's terrible. We'll get to that in a minute. But they had good chemistry. After the match, each winner did an interview with Tony the Tiger, and King Parsons calls Brickhouse Brown Outhouse Brown and Rudy Poo. So later on, when The Rock says, "I'm going to kick your Rudy Poo candy ass," it may have come from this.
We need to do some research on that and figure it out.
Next up, we get Larry the Perv with Pocahontas and Brandy May, the farmer's daughter. And Brandy May is sad because she can no longer wear her favorite cutoff shorts.
Because clearly, you can't buy more pants.
Apparently not. They were her lucky cutoff shorts.
Apparently they're not if they got destroyed.
Yeah, no shit.
If they were lucky, they wouldn't have got hurt.
They would have fought back. If they were lucky, they would have beat up the Syrian terrorist.
Exactly.
Still the prettiest woman in the battle royal. Now,
Truth.
Next up, now, this is the other match that is somewhat good.
Yeah, this one's okay.
I can't really say anything against this match. It's the AWA World Tag Team Champions, Bad Company, who everyone knows in WWF is the Orient Express, with Medusa against the Top Guns and the AWA Women's Champion, Wendy Richter.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Wendy Richter in 2 weeks. There's a big story with Wendy Richter, and I think I'm going to save it for the WrestleMania 1 show.
Okay.
But it's the reason she is here, because she got the original screw job from Vince.
Okay.
So that's why she is here. The Top Guns is Ricky Rice and Derek Dukes. I had to remember that. Pat Tanaka and the other guy. I can't think of his
Paul
name.
Diamond.
Paul Diamond is Bad Company.
Yes, I have all of these written down.
I couldn't remember his name to save my life. I'm just like, hey,
I have all of these written down.
It's the mask guy from the Orient Express. That's all I...
And we've got DDP as manager with Bad Company.
Yes, a young DDP.
This is the first time I've ever seen DDP as a manager.
He's not bad.
He is not bad. You see him like 3 more times tonight.
Yeah, no, that if this is anything, it's DDP is on this show everywhere.
Apparently, he manages everyone.
In the AWA at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know he was in the AWA. This is actually a surprise to me. I thought he started managing in WCW.
Apparently not.
No, he started in the AWA. I'm cool with it. He did a great job.
He did.
This is one of those matches that I feel like if this and the first 2 matches were it, and this was the end of the show, I would have been a much happier wrestling fan.
Like, this could have been a C+ show.
Yeah, no, it's a lot better show, but this match is not terrible. It is for all the gold.
Which is really strange. Like, if one of the women...
If Medusa pins Wendy Richter, she wins the women's title back. If the Top Guns pin one of the members of Bad Company,
they win the
tag
titles.
Very confusing rules. It seems like Vince Russo may have got a boner watching this match.
Probably.
Probably. It is kind of fun to see Pat Tanaka in the ring because that dude is awesome. I mean, outside that, this match isn't bad, but go ahead. I know you have notes on Medusa's outfit. I know you do.
I don't have notes on her outfit. I just didn't care for it.
Which is pretty much the 80s equivalent of what Ruby Riott wears now.
She had a super high cut.
I said the 80s equivalent.
Pants leg on one side and full pants on the other side and laced up all the way on one side. I just didn't like it.
I said the 80s equivalent.
I just didn't care for it.
No, you didn't. It didn't bother me at all. I just don't like the one-piece swimsuits as wrestling attire.
This is very true. That is also very terrible.
Which is actually one reason why the women's battle royal later, I'm like, well, at least they're not in swimsuits.
True. But I also don't generally care for anybody in solid white to wrestle.
That's true. That's true.
It's worse when it's guys in trunks because they look like a diaper, but...
It's fucking after Labor Day. This should have not happened. So...
This is December. Don't wear white.
When is it acceptable to wear white? Because isn't every day technically after Labor Day? All right, so moving forward.
I'm not sure what the exact rule is, but that's not the point. The point is, I don't care for it.
The match comes to an end when Pat Tanaka kicks Medusa right above the boobs. And Wendy Richter goes for the pin for the 1, the 2, and the 3. After the match, the Top Guns get Medusa after Medusa and Wendy Richter are still fighting and spank her.
Yes. Which I also do not enjoy.
Oh, this show. This show has so much uncomfortability in it. Is that a word? It is now. Fuck it.
I mean,
this match is bad. That ending is terrible. I don't
like seeing classic women's wrestling. It is uncomfortable for me.
And here's the thing. Wendy Richter is actually... I think you're going to be happy with the match at WrestleMania 1 because it's actually competitive. Where I know Wendy Richter and Medusa could have a teardown match. But knowing that and seeing this just makes my heart hurt.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But yeah, Medusa gets spanked. And then Tony the Tiger interviews Medusa, who argues with and then slaps Pat Tanaka. DDP then dismisses her from the Diamond Exchange by calling her a bimbo. He does not know who that bimbo is.
Yep.
That's how we go. Then we go back to Larry the Perv interviewing the WCCW World Champion, Kerry Von Erich, and his daughter Holly, who I believe becomes Lacey. Not 100% sure on that, but...
Yeah.
Now, there's...
Not a good interview.
No, and I don't think that's on Larry either. For
the first time ever.
Yeah, Kerry... kind of speaking slow and not Kerry Von Erich slow because that is how Kerry cuts promo. But Kerry's cutting this really awkward promo about how he's going to win the match, but you can't really understand much.
It's because Kerry's high as balls.
We're going to get to that later. Next up, we get a match for the disputed AWA International Television title.
Mercy.
Because the word vacant's too hard to use. We're not going to use the word vacant because fuck it, disputed sounds better. No, it sounds like something that happens in a courtroom of Judge fucking Judy.
I mean, it would have been a better match if it was in the courtroom of Judge Judy.
Judge Judy would have won the championship if it was Judge Judy. But Ron Garvin against Rambo
would there
Great
be
Gagne.
A better TV champion than Judge Judy?
No, she should be. Let's just make Judge Judy honorary TV champion. Just call it a day. Okay. We're done here.
Done.
Ron Garvin, who has fallen from grace at this point,
hard
main evented
fast.
the 1987 edition of Starrcade for the NWA World Title against Ric Flair in this very building, is here on Superclash 3 wrestling for the TV title against Rambo Great Gagne. Are you fucking kidding me?
These are the lesser known family members of very famous people.
I mean, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I prefer Jimmy Jam over Ron. And Greg Gagne, look, you cannot come out of your father's shadow. There are certain guys who will outshine their dad, but when you are as charismatic as a potato, it's not gonna happen.
No. There's tons of second and third generation wrestlers that even if they don't outshine their parents, they stand on their own. You don't have to be better than, you have to set yourself apart from.
And Greg Gagne does not do that.
And you've got both of the Rhodeses.
No, they've set their own path.
Charlotte's great. Randy Orton's actually good. Bray Wyatt and freaking Bo Dallas are doing good by themselves.
You gotta believe.
You see a ton of them now. Like, there's tons of lower generation wrestlers that are doing great.
But
it's possible.
And then there's Greg Gagne.
It's possible.
Greg Gagne is just nope. Yeah. Greg Gagne falls in the same category as David Flair, who in WCW was just a letdown. Couldn't wrestle worth a lick. Great guy, but just could not wrestle worth a lick. And same principle here. Greg Gagne is a great guy. I have nothing. I've never heard bad stories about Greg, but Greg was okay in the ring. Like, he's not terrible, but when your dad's booking the territory and was world champion for, I think, 14 years, you just can't get out of that. I mean, if you went to a different territory, maybe, but you'd have to change your name or put yourself under a mask. Like, there's no in between there.
Yeah.
Greg Gagne is not going to do that. He's going to be in his father's territory. And I mean, Chicago booed the shit out of Greg Gagne, and that cracks me up. But
I mean, when you don't like someone.
And Greg Gagne does the 10 count or the 10 punch in the corner and trying to get the crowd to count with him, and no one does.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, there was a few people who did, but nope.
Not the normal. Everybody loves to count, right?
So let me just say how this match ends. So Greg and Ron Garvin are on the floor.
Yep.
Greg Gagne sends Garvin into the announce table. No, Garvin sends Greg into the announce table. And then Greg retaliates by sending Garvin into the ring post and jumping in the ring and winning the championship via a fucking countout.
Well, I mean,
how the fuck does this work? Because that should have never counted.
He was also allowed to bite him in the face earlier in the match.
Well, that's wrestling.
That's not wrestling. We cannot bite people. That is inappropriate.
Oh my god, it was bad. And then Gagne cuts a promo after he wins the championship. Do you have any other notes than this? Greg Gagne's promo.
No,
he's in Chicago. He's supposed to be a face. He calls Ron Garvin the Chicago Bears and himself the Minnesota Vikings. This is the same equivalent as defecating on the statue of Michael Jordan. That's just pooping on Jordan's head. Just pulling down your trunks and just shitting on the Jordan statue. Gagne's just like, nope, I'm done.
It's terrible.
Gagne's an idiot. And the fans are still booing him.
Well, I wonder why now.
And then next up, we get Larry the Perv with Jerry Lawler. So
slightly less pervy with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, no, because I think Lawler would have punched him. Which, I mean, Lawler dates younger girls, so I mean, I can't really say much. I mean, his fiance is what, 40 years young?
No, like
30? No, she's
25 to 30 years younger.
No, he's 70. She's like in her 20s.
I thought she was older than that.
No.
Oof.
Good for Jerry. That's no. But still not as bad as Larry Nelson. So
there's a difference in dating younger girls because clearly they are okay with it because they're dating you.
Yeah, not as bad as some dude ogling you going down the
Yeah. This is the creepy old guy on the subway that tries to touch your butt.
This is the same equivalent of what an old person is in a nursing home. The only thing missing is him slapping you in the ass and throwing you a Werther's Original saying, take off your shirt. Like, that's pretty much it. I mean,
I could see him going back to doing that maybe 5 years after this was taped.
Probably 20 minutes after the show ended. Next up, here we go. David McClain joins us on commentary. And it is the $10,000 over the top rope or off with the lingerie battle royal bound for glory. That
Not off with lingerie, off with the clothes.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
if you can get someone down to just their lingerie,
they are eliminated.
they're eliminated. Or if you throw them over the top.
In this match is Bambi, Brandy May, Lori Lynn, Luna, Malibu, Nina, Peggy Lee Leather, Pocahontas, and the Syrian Terrorist. Oh, Jesus. Do you have notes? Because tell me you have notes.
I do not have notes. This
David
was a
McClay.
clusterfuck.
Okay, this is a really shitty match. And if this match turns you on in any sort of way when you were going through puberty at that age, if you're listening to the show and you're older and this is one of those matches that got to you, you need some evaluation. This is not a good match. Like, if you could find better stuff.
There's ripping of clothing. There's tearing hose apart. There's Peggy Lee Leather getting pulled out of her jacket and almost popping out of her lingerie, because apparently when you have a lingerie match, that means that you can't wear undergarments.
Yeah, no. Peggy Lee Leather is about to just expose a boob at any minute, and I don't want to see it.
Like, when the girls are bigger, you gotta strap them down. Somehow, some way.
Because, I mean, oh my God.
That would have been real bad.
Yeah, her and Luna go over the top rope, and I just expected a boob just to be like, surprise! Like, that's all that we needed.
Like, I was waiting to see something get blurred out. Like, it's happening.
Honestly, if the boob would have popped out, it may have had a top hat on and singing, hello, my baby, hello, my darling. It's bad. Terrace and Brandy Lee start fighting halfway through the match, and they stick together pretty much the whole time.
Well, yeah, that's how it has to end, because that's what the story is.
Nina gets eliminated, which was heartbreaking. There's a healthy take it off chant from the Chicago faithful.
Yep.
Stay classy.
Of course.
And honestly, I can't even be mad at that this time. Brandy May gets thrown over the top rope. It was, yeah.
Yeah, the extent of my notes here is that they keep giving the acronym POW, POWW, but the promotion is supposedly called Powerful Women of Wrestling.
No, I don't understand.
So I'm slightly confused about that. My other note is yay terrorist. That's what it says.
Yay terrorist. Yeah, no. The Syrian terrorist wins $10,000.
I like that character.
It was a good character.
I like how she looks. This is a good thing.
She's actually probably the highlight of the Battle Royal.
She's a good bad guy. I like it. I
was
appreciate that. I like the villains.
Brandy May loses. I applaud. Then we go backstage as Tony the Tiger tries to interview the Syrian terrorist, who just yells at Brandy May in her native language. We go backstage to Larry the Perv with Peggy Lee Leather and Luna. And Peggy's just yelling, look, Nita, I want you in my trailer park for my championship.
I mean, I don't know.
First person to get a pin during a Toby Keith song's champion. Like, that's pretty much where we're at.
I don't know.
Luna then scares the crap out of Larry the Perv by having a snake with her.
I'm glad somebody got back at him. Honestly.
Yeah. That's next up. Next up, we get the awkwardness of Bill Apter, who, by the way, is going to be at Starrcast. He is getting ready to debut his own podcast. His first guest is Hulk Hogan. But he's
pretty cool.
Yeah, he's going to be at Starrcast. The guy behind Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, and like 77 other kayfabe magazines, which I love to read still. They still exist. I know Pro Wrestling Illustrated still exists and still writes in kayfabe.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate that sometimes, because as a fan, I know so much now, and I'm like, eh. But occasionally I want that moment to where I can still enjoy it like I'm watching it like I was 6. And those magazines do it. So Bill Apter holds up an award. Inspirational Wrestler of the Year goes to Jerry the King Lawler, who stays in the dressing room because they're trying to figure out what the fuck to do with Kerry Von Erich.
Assumably.
No, that's exactly what's happening at this point.
We don't know this for sure.
Yeah.
Assumably, he is too busy trying to help sober up Kerry Von Erich to come and accept his award.
So backstage, we go back to Larry the Perv, who's with Sergeant Slaughter, and does not call Colonel De Beers a maggot, which makes me sad. I mean, that's... If you hear a Sergeant Slaughter promo, you're getting called a maggot. Like, I know what's happening here. You maggot. Like, it's just going to happen.
It did not happen.
It did not. I was sad. Next up's the boot camp no DQ match where Sergeant Slaughter takes on Colonel DePeers with Diamond Dallas Page. The rules here is you can bring anything to the ring and use it as a weapon. Colonel DePeers brought DDP. So, what do you have? A riding crop or a helmet? Who had the helmet?
Sergeant Slaughter had both of them. He had his helmet on. He had his combat boots on that he could use as a weapon, and he came with a riding crop.
Yep.
And they beat the crap out of each other with the riding crop.
And this match goes back and forth until
it was not a terrible match. It was okay.
It's not. Let me just say this: it's not as brutal as it should have been, and that's coming because it's no DQ. You kind of should make it somewhat brutal. But then the match takes a weird turn.
Yeah.
Sergeant Slaughter gets Colonel DeBeers in the Cobra Clutch.
Yep.
And DDP motions for somebody to come running from the back. And in a moment of, this is the future writing itself, Sheikh Anan Al-Qasi comes to the ring to attack Sergeant Slaughter while Funko Pop Ref calls for the disqualification. What in the seventh layer of fuck? Now, before we get going, Sheikh Anan Al-Qasi goes on to be General Adnan in the Iraqi sympathizer storyline. Just want to point that out.
Yeah.
And during this, do you have notes?
Nope.
Okay, good, because
No,
I'm good.
not yet.
I can't wait to say this. Slaughter starts getting the upper hand on the two. DDP calls out for a third one. And who the fuck do you think it is? It's the Iron Sheik, also known as Colonel Mustafa, in the fucking Iraqi sympathizer storyline.
Yep.
You have all three parts in the ring 2 years before it happens.
Yeah.
Boom. Because there are times where you're just like, there's moments where a character's with someone they're going to be paired with later, and you're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Here I'm like,
oh,
it happened 3 years ago? Now, granted,
poor choices.
Yeah, Slaughter was a face, but
poor choices.
It was bad. It was bad. Slaughter gets busted open and gets
He got stabbed with a ballpoint pen.
That's true.
He was stabbed with a clicky pen. Like, he reared back, clicked the pen, and stabbed him in the head multiple times. And every time he would stab and dig around and then bring it back, click the pin, and stab him again.
The Iron Sheik is just...
What the heck is this?
Mike Enos comes out only to be hit by the Iron Sheik because Mike Enos isn't dum-dum.
He's useless.
He's useless. But who saves the day after Slaughter's been busted away by the ink pen? Los Guerreros. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ending to this match was better than the match.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does happen where, like, the story itself is better than the match.
I mean, the match wasn't terrible. It was acceptable.
Yeah, it was fine. Next up, we get Larry the Perv with Bill Apter, with hair, by the way. I forgot to mention that earlier. Bill Apter has hair here, and it just baffles me.
Yeah.
It's just weird to see, because Bill Apter's got the Mean Gene Okerlund thing going.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet him. He's just one of those guys where you go, I read your magazines growing up. Thank you. I just want to be that guy at Starrcast where I just shake people's hands the whole weekend and just say, thank you for giving me my childhood. And then later on, there'll be a meme of me show up going, it's still real to me, damn it. Like, I just know it's coming. Like, it's okay.
You might as well meme yourself.
I'm going to cry. I know I'm going to cry some point over the weekend. It probably might be by myself. It might be at Medieval Times drunk. I don't know yet. Because I plan on getting drunk at Medieval Times.
We'll figure it out. I'm going to have to pour you into a car. It's fine. Anybody wants to come to Medieval Times with us on Sunday afternoon and help me roll my husband back to the car?
I'm drinking. I'm going to get a lot of beer and yell out Medieval Times all day long. Trust me. After Starrcast. Next up, the WCCW tag team titles are on the line is the Samoan SWAT team with Buddy Roberts. And there's something I never expected. The Samoan SWAT team, Rikishi. And I can't think of the other one's name. Fatu, and I think it's not Samu. It might be Samu.
It's terrible.
Yeah, no. He had two tag team partners, and I don't know what incarnation of the Samoan SWAT team this is. This is after the Samoan SWAT team leaves Jim Crockett, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's right before they go to Crockett. I think it's Samu. I think it's Fatu and Samu. And here they are as the WCCW Tag Team Champions, and I'm super stoked seeing them on the show. No, they go to the Crockett's just a little bit after this, actually. And they're taking on the team of Michael P.S. Haves and Steve Do It To It Cox.
I hate that. And they said it so many times. That's a terrible nickname.
Can I, honest to God, make a shirt that says "Do It To It"?
I mean, if you want to.
And like the super 80s font.
That is a terrible nickname.
Do It To It. Can we start calling someone on the staff, like, for anybody who doesn't listen to our other shows, like if Sharon comes on, can we just go, "Hey Sharon, your new nickname is Sharon Do It To It Ice"?
I think she might murder you.
She might.
I might let her in the house for it.
Or one of the fangirls comes on and be like, "Do it to it." No. All right.
No.
It's the greatest thing ever.
Let's not.
If you're asking if I made up that, oh yeah, there's this, I'm reading this guy and he's like, if you think I made up that nickname for Cox, you were mistaken. Because they say it a lot. If you were playing a drinking game to them saying "Do It To It Cox," you're good. You'd been drunk.
I think it's because they had a little bit of a dirty thought.
Yeah, no. Buddy,
Do It To It Cox is not good.
Buddy Roberts wore a Jägermeister t-shirt to the ring. That's one of the fun facts here. The match goes back and forth a lot. After a while, Buddy Roberts comes in and knocks out Steve Do It To It Cox. Or no, nails Hayes with the chain. He hit him with the wallet.
He hit him with a wallet. I've actually got that written down in large letters. Hayes got hit by a wallet.
I am not sure what was in that wallet. Do you?
Who knows?
I'm telling you now, if I got hit by a wallet, it better have something good in it. If I get knocked out by it. Because I'm pretty sure 3 credit cards and $7 is not going to knock me out.
It was a lead-lined wallet.
It was a lead-lined wallet. It had ether.
That too.
It had ether.
That too.
The SST, I actually enjoy the SST, and Hayes and Do It Cox. They're trying to get the ref to turn the decision, but the ref has nothing to do with it. And I think this is Hitler ref, so it isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Next up, we get Larry the Perv with Sheik Aldan Al-Kassi and the Iron Sheik. Now, my notes for this interview is, and this is probably my favorite thing ever, Iron Sheik has to be the goal for every beer drinker in the world. Because he's got this gut. Like, he's got the beer gut, but he's got a 6-pack beer gut.
Yeah, and he's even got the V.
Like, it's the weirdest thing you've ever seen.
Like, he's super ripped and also still a little pudgy.
Like, it has got to be the perfect, like, if you work out and you drink a lot of beer, he's got to be the role model now. That's got to be the guy you have to look up to.
Yeah.
Or Steve Do It To It Cox. I mean, it's one of the two at this point.
Nobody should look up to Steve Do It To It Cox.
So we go backstage, or we go back to the ring. Gary Michael Capetta announces the IWGP champion.
Yeah, I have that written down as well. It's like, what the heck is this nonsense? You don't belong here.
Apparently it's Tatsumi Fujinami, and I did not realize this because you can't understand what Gary Michael Capetta says, who the champion is. You just hear IWGP champion, and we looked at each other in confusion because the IWGP championship's pretty prestigious even at this time.
Yeah, like, you should not be here. You do not belong here, sir. Go home.
Go, look, this show sucks. Go somewhere where there's actually good wrestling. Go to the NWA like you do a couple years later and enjoy a match with Ric Flair. It's going to be good. You'll be fine. Just not right now.
This is bad. You shouldn't be here. Please leave.
We get match number 10. It is the Indian strap match with Chief Wahoo McDaniel versus the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez.
Yes. And Wahoo McDaniel has never lost an Indian strap match.
Nope, they made that perfectly clear.
He's very proud of that. And yet again, Wahoo McDaniel did not lose an Indian strap match.
No, Fujinami holds Manny Fernandez as Wahoo, then whips Fernandez with the strap. So Fujinami gets involved here. I don't know if this led to anything. I'm guessing no, but it happens. Wahoo gets busted open. And I still don't know if he gigged himself or if it was the hard way. I still can't. I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure he might have gigged himself. And then Manny Fernandez is busted open. And they're both just covered in blood. And then Mike Enos, the biggest idiot ever, said the announcers, Tony the Tiger, says that Mike Enos may have to stop the match due to blood. But this is wrestling and a Indian strap match, and that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Tony the Tiger giving you the worst line that he gives all night.
Yeah, well.
But they're setting something up.
They are.
They are setting something up because not only do they mention this here, they also mention it in the interview right after this.
Yeah.
Where we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, Wahoo ends up touching all four corners after Manny Fernandez kicks him into the fourth corner. And that's the end of the match. Both guys covered in blood. Made sense here.
And it was okay.
It was awful. I don't like Indian strap matches. I think the only one that was really good is Guerrero and JBL. And if you can send me a good Indian strap match, just tell me where it is and I will watch it. And please, for the love of God, do not tell me it's Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair from Uncensored 99. The Yappa Pie strap match.
What?
Oh, God. There's a match at Uncensored. It's part of Botchamania.
Uh-huh.
By the way, Matthew from Botchamania is going to be at Starrcast doing the best of Botchamania. But Hulk Hogan can't say Yappa Pie. He calls it Apple Pie strap match constantly. And it is the funniest fucking thing ever. Because it's like, Ric Flair, I'm going to get you in the Apple Pie strap match. I'm like, oh my God. Wrestling. Which you see Ric Flair's face kind of turn red. Like, you know he's trying not to laugh.
Oh.
After the match, the brawl continues. Fernandez hits Mike Enos, of course. And Fujinami returns to the ring to save Wahoo McDaniel. Tony the Tiger interviews Wahoo. And who wanted Fernandez dead.
Whatever.
It was bad. Backstage, we get Larry the Perv with Vern Gagne and AWA President Stanley Blackburn. And both men agree that the match should have been stopped due to blood. And this is where you start hearing it, where
Stop the match due to blood. Stop the match due to blood. Stop the match due to blood.
Where Stanley Blackburn says, I have made my referees know that if it gets too bloody, they need to stop the match. Here we go. Match 11 for the AWA and WCCW championships. It is the world champion Jerry the King Lawler versus the world champion Kerry Von Erich. Here we go.
So there's a backstory here.
There is, and we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to go ahead and do this first. Gary Michael Capetta announces the WGN radio announcer Al Lerner will be the special guest ring announcer for the match. I had no idea who Al Lerner was. And you looked at me and went, am I supposed to know him? And my answer was, hell no.
It happens sometimes that there's just these random people that show up and they make a big deal about it. And it's like, oh, have I missed something? Did this person mean something to someone somewhere? Sometimes it's yes. A lot of times it's no. Like, they make big deals out of literally nothing.
This is like Spring Stampede 2000 where Man-Cow wrestles.
What?
Yeah, the radio DJ Man-Cow wrestles at Spring Stampede 2000.
Okay.
It's the last time 10,000 people were in an arena outside WWE. It was a WCW show, and it was shitty. Remember me telling you I was going to sit down and watch that? That was going to be a show we were going to cover.
Nope.
Because it was the last time 10,000 people. I couldn't even sit through that. No, you know what? This show makes that one look... No, that show makes this one look like WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's bad. I forgot about that one. That was pretty shitty. But yeah, so the backstory here. Okay. Von Erich is supposed to blade in the match. And if you're going to blade, you're going to hide a razor.
As you do.
Yeah, and it's just part of wrestling. I know that bothers you sometimes.
It does, but whatever.
Sometimes it does. It makes sense for blood, but as long as your face does not look like Devon Dudley's, I think we'll be all right.
Jesus.
So, or Abdullah, or Dusty for that matter, because Dusty had a lot of those too, where your forehead looks like hamburger.
And somehow not frickin' Ric Flair.
Yeah, Ric Flair. I mean, it's there. Like you can see some, but it's not as prominent as like everyone else. Like it's just Ric Flair was probably the best ever at that.
Like apparently he's really good at bleeding because he literally bled constantly. All the freaking time.
Ric Flair could have been punched in the nuts, and apparently he would just bled. Like his forehead would have split open and just gushing.
I don't know if he just always cut the correct direction where it looks like just extra wrinkles.
Right.
Or if he was just super careful, or if he just didn't cut as deep as some of these other guys.
Yeah, I mean, Flair did it great. So in the back, they were going over the match with Vern.
Yeah.
And Von Erich forgets that the razor is in his hand and cuts his arm. Bad. He gashes his left arm or right arm. No, left arm. And it's pretty prominent. Now, there's also the other part of this story that Kerry Von Erich is high as fuck. And
he looks like it.
Okay, let's go with the nurse aspect here. Kerry Von Erich gigs. You know he gigs.
Mm-hmm.
I know when wrestlers gig, there's always this spot where they'll bleed a while. It'll stop, but the blood's still there, but it's not like thick, coated, just poof.
Yeah.
Occasionally you cut too deep. Eddie did it.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. But Kerry's bleeding from the arm. And Kerry's bleeding from the head at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not, it is a water faucet. I'm sorry to get graphic, but it is a water faucet of blood.
It's terrible.
Is it because he's high? Is it if he took any sort of pills or any sort of drug? Would that have made this worse?
Yeah.
How?
Especially pills a lot of times will thin your blood some. Any kind of prescription meds you get that are painkillers are always mixed with Tylenol or ibuprofen or something else. And if you take enough of that, it starts to thin your blood.
So when Von Erich goes for the gig, he's just gushing the whole match when they do the spot because they're trying to figure out how to do this spot because his arm's already fucked up and you can see the blood coming off the arm already.
Almost immediately.
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
it's 2 moves in and he's looking at his arm constantly because it's bleeding.
And all of a sudden, you know, Von Erich does.
They
the
should
thing.
have wrapped his arm in some like Curlex and an ace bandage or something.
Even tape.
Even tape
At this point. I mean, so give credit where credit is due. If Von Erich was really high, and I think this is something I don't know if Lawler's ever talked about it.
Watching close-ups of him in this match, it looks like it.
But God bless Lawler here, because I mean, he cuts a promo at the beginning of the match. You can tell they're stalling a little. And the match itself goes on, I think, 18 minutes.
Which is at least 10 minutes too long.
But you have to give it was trying to give the crowd a main event, and I get that. The show kind of has to go on, but I think they should have had a backup plan. Because this is bad. And I think with them saying, hey, look, if it's the ref's discretion that there's too much blood in the match, I think them saying that constantly was their way of getting out of this.
Maybe they planned for him to bleed as much as he did.
That's true. Maybe they did plan it. If they did, that's really shitty.
Yeah.
Because that means he'd have to gig deep.
Yeah.
And that's just, that scares me as a fan.
It should. Although you don't have main arteries in your face, so it's not going to actually hurt anything, but you have a lot of superficial veins and arteries.
Yeah.
And heads bleed. Heads frickin' bleed.
If this would have been a cage match, I don't know if I would have been as questionable on it.
Yeah.
I know that sounds weird, but if you put a step here, it's not so bad.
True.
Dusek, which I think is Hitler Ref, Lawler hits with Von Erich with a foreign object, which looks like he has nothing. Yeah, that's great.
He just reaches way the heck down in his trunks to pull it out 3 times.
He's getting that testicular fortitude and hitting Kerry Von Erich with it.
I'd believe it.
Later on, the crowd starts getting behind Kerry later on in the match because Lawler's doing heel tactics. Lawler's trying to make Kerry.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
Von Erich goes for the claw at the end of the match, and the ref keeps checking Von Erich's eye and calls for the bell. Lawler's out. Von Erich has the claw, which is the worst fucking submission hold if applied incorrectly or when it's applied kind of weak. And Kerry applied it weak.
It looked terrible. It looked like he was just holding his forehead down to the mat.
Yeah, it was bad. And that's where we find out that the ref stops the match.
Yeah.
Blackburn says there would be a rematch. I don't know if there was. I know Lawler was stripped of the AWA title shortly after this.
Yeah.
And there's a great story about that, too, on the AWA documentary.
Okay.
You need to go out of your way to... I think it's him. It might be Rick Martel. But one of them gets stripped because Vern's pissed, and they send the AWA championship back with tire marks on it because they ran over it.
It's appropriate.
Fuck it. The Chicago fans chant bullshit, and they did.
They did.
And I would be just as pissed because this is the match that was supposed to change wrestling. And Lawler walks out with both championships. It might have sent the WCCW title back to Dallas with the fucking tire marks on it. It may not have been the AWA title. It might have been WCCW championship.
Either way.
It's funny. Eric Lee, Von Erich Lee is crowd's cheering. Lawler's getting booed and then Tony the Tiger interviews Lawler. We go backstage to creepy Larry Nelson, and he's with a bloodied Kerry Von Erich, who's still just bleeding.
Like, just consistently dripping blood.
It's one thing to be cut open, and eventually that's going to stop.
There was so much blood in that match that he kept trying to shake his hair out of his face and was just sending blood drops all over everything. And Jerry Lawler got Kerry Von Erich's blood in his mouth, and it was terrible.
It was disgusting.
Like, that was awful.
And Kerry argues with Larry Blackburn, or with Larry Nelson, and Blackburn says there'll be a rematch. Whatever. He instructed the refs to call the match if there was too much blood, and there was too much blood.
There was way too much blood.
And that match was completely a shit show.
Yes. Yes, it was.
It was a shit show. But that's not the main event, and I'm still confused. I don't know if the AWA wanted to send the fans home happy.
I don't understand the point of the last match.
It is the Rock and Roll Express against the Stud Stable, which is Jimmy Golden and Robert Fuller. You guys know Robert Fuller is Colonel Robert Parker from WCW days. And you know Jimmy Golden. He was in the Stud Stable in WCW. He was Bunkhouse Buck. I did not know that. And the lady manager that they had, Miss Sylvia, was Robert Fuller's wife.
Okay.
At the time, yeah.
Whatever.
It's a tag match. It's shitty.
It was really bad.
There's nothing much to say.
The
Rock
crowd
and
has already started leaving.
Oh, where the crowd's
in
pissed.
Droves.
Which all 1,600 people get up. It's not that many.
After the bell rings and you find out Jerry Lawler wins, you can see people towards the back just get up and start walking up.
It's bad.
They're just mad.
It's pretty shitty.
Fans do that now sometimes too.
Yeah, no, they do. Rock and Roll Express wins. That pretty much sums it up.
I'm just so
it's a horrible
finish.
It was a horrible finish. They rushed it. I don't know what they were trying here. Tony the Tiger interviews Vern Gagne, who thanks everyone who helped for the show.
It was a shit show.
This is a show that was... do you want to give a letter grade?
F.
What'd you learn? How not to run a show?
How not to run a show. Learn how to work together with the people that you're trying to put a show on with. Don't hire guys with drug problems. and make sure everybody can work together in a match before you put them together in a match on a big pay-per-view.
Let me
Try
just
it on a house show first. See what happens.
Here's the thing. The AWA folded in December 1990, which is 2 years after this.
Yeah.
Here are the list of champions from April of 1983 to December 1990.
Okay.
Nick Bockwinkel, who I think was married to Vern's daughter.
Of course he was.
Or he was really close to Vern or something.
Yeah.
Jumbo Tsuruta, who was from Japan. Rick Martel, who goes on to be the model in the WWF.
Yeah.
Stan the Lariat Hansen,
Okay.
which,
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a great career, but he's a face at this time.
That's weird.
Yeah, no, I want to see a Stan the Lariat Hansen as world champ as a face.
I don't.
Nick Bockwinkel. No,
Okay.
Stan Hansen's great. You can't deny this. And you probably wouldn't be doing the chewing tobacco at this point, because I know that's what your
Ugh.
hanging point is, and that was a WCW thing, because I don't even think he did that in Japan.
He shouldn't, because it's gross.
Nick Bockwinkel then gets it back. Kurt Hennig wins it.
Okay.
Kurt Hennig then drops it in Memphis to Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler gets stripped of the AWA title. It then goes to, I know this is Vern's son-in-law, Larry Zbyszko.
Yep.
Maso Saito.
Okay.
And the final AWA champion was Larry Zbyszko. I like Larry. I do. I think Larry's a great wrestler. Technically sound. You knew you were going to get a decent match from Larry. Nowhere near world champion status. I might get some hate for that, but...
whatever.
So that's it. I give it an F too. It is AWA Superclash 3 from Chicago. I think the thing that you learned the most here...
Just because it sounds good on paper doesn't mean it's going to work?
Apparently no one got paid for this show.
What?
Only a few people got actually paid. And the AWA championship that Jerry Lawler has is the actual AWA championship, so he didn't send it back, so it must have been Martel who ran it over. But, yeah, he didn't get paid for this show.
Well, I wouldn't have given him their championship back either.
And Vern stripped the AWA title from Jerry Lawler.
I wouldn't have given the championship title back either.
This is a show that is possibly one of the 7 plagues in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's right up there with Locust. I mean, if the world's coming to an end, it's going to be Locust, and then we're all going to have to sit and watch Superclash 3. Which I know there's someone out there who's like, how can you guys hate on Superclash 3? Have you watched it? Next week...
I don't need that kind of negativity in my life.
Next week, I think it is going to be a show that makes Superclash 3 look like WrestleMania 17. Or make... The show we're watching next week will be WrestleMania 17 compared to this.
Hopefully.
It is the first NWA TNA pay-per-view from Birmingham, Alabama. Now, before we actually get into the show, it's kind of funny that Jeff Jarrett's on this show and that Jeff Jarrett's on the next show too.
There's a lot of guys that we saw here that are going to pop back up.
Oh, by far. June 19th,
And there's a lot of guys on
2002.
this that are going to be at Starrcast.
A lot of guys. Now, to let everyone know, the next show, like I said, next week we're doing that. It is just to name some of the guys who are on that show, by the way. Because there's a lot of guys you actually know.
Well, it should be. It's not that old.
But I mean, a lot of guys that you know that are in really prominent spots.
Okay.
AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Jerry Lynn, who's going to be a referee at All In.
Yes.
Low-key, the guy that
Yeah.
a lot of people in wrestling don't enjoy. Psychosis.
Okay.
Cowboy James Storm, a very young James Storm. Toby Keith. Ken Shamrock.
Okay.
Brian Christopher.
Mm.
Buff Bagwell, who's going to be at Starrcast.
Lord have mercy.
Jeff Jarrett, of course.
Yeah.
Conan, who's going to be at Starrcast.
Yeah.
There's a reason I picked these shows, everyone. Scott Hall, who's going to be at Starrcast.
Yeah.
Steve Carino.
Oh.
And Vampiro.
Okay.
And it's a different show. It's only 2 hours.
That's exciting.
It's exciting, right? We signed, by the way, just to let everyone know, we signed up for the Global Wrestling Network.
We did.
It was the worst fucking mistake I've ever had because the app doesn't work.
Not in the least.
So I'm hoping to get that shit together before we have to do this. If not, we're going to have to sit around a computer.
I mean, it's whatever. I don't care.
But yeah, next week it is the gauntlet for the gold and the very first NWA TNA pay-per-view. And then WrestleMania 1. And then Starrcade 83. As we prepare for All In.
This is happening. We're almost there.
We are on the home stretch to Chicago, Illinois. And the Hyatt Regency for Starrcast, and then the Sears Center for All In. And before we go today, I do want to talk about one thing with All In. Something happened this past week that has just blew my mind.
Okay.
About All In and Starrcast, and now my mind just went. Flip's got his own thing.
Yes, we're going.
That's gonna be fake. Yeah, no, I have not told Starrcast this yet. Because Starrcast social media is hating on Flip, and I don't want to be that guy that's like, we're going to that.
I'm going to be that guy, and we're going to that. Little excited. It's cool.
Meet and greets with Hangman Page, Okada, Marty Scurll, and Flip Gordon, as well as being DJ'd by DJZ, which makes me super happy. But also happening at Starrcast, the Andy Kaufman panel, the All-In weigh-ins, so much stuff going on. The roast of Bruce Pritchard, so much stuff happening over Labor Day weekend.
We had some new stuff announced today that was super exciting.
I said one of them. There's a mystery dinner that is happening. It's $99 to have dinner with someone.
For an eat and greet, and you don't know who it is.
I love the possibility. Like, that makes me go, Because if it wasn't on the day we were on Podcast Row,
you would probably go to that, and I may or may not go to the murder mystery with the ghost of Joey Ryan.
Okay, that's pretty fucking cool, too. That's at the same time. Like, it's so cool what they're doing at Starrcast. Eat and greets, where you get to have dinner with one of your favorite stars. There's so much cool stuff to do. They just announced another one tonight, where you can actually get a picture with Earl Hebner raising your hand with the old school Attitude Era WWF Championship.
I feel like you're going to take pictures with all of these.
I am going, look, if I can get a replica belt, I might get one. I've never had the opportunity to get one, and I think Starrcast might be that opportunity. But, guys, that's going to wrap up this show. Sorry it's late. There's been a lot going on. Yesterday, we had some technical issues with our sound equipment, as it was staticky. I don't know how else to say it. It sounded like we were ordering from a Sonic menu.
And nobody wants to listen to that for 2 hours.
No. So next week, Ashlee learns about the very first NWA TNA pay-per-view.
Couldn't be worse than this. We're good. I'm happy with that.
No, look, I like I said at the beginning of the show, I owe you an apology. So to make it up to you, when we watch the NWA TNA pay-per-view, I think we're going to go to Dairy Queen. And I'm going to get you some ice cream.
That is acceptable.
That's what I'm going to do to make it up to you. Are you okay with this?
Yes.
All right. Guys, next week, NWA TNA pay-per-view. As always, this is where you say goodnight.
Good night.
Class is dismissed.